And we are live. My name is Terry Thompson. I am the host of Unbreakable Stories, along with my co-host Bonnie. Bonnie, how's it going?
We are here, right? We showed up today.
I know, right? And that's a part of our topic here today is 80%. I think. How did you say this? 80% of achieving success is actually just showing up, I think is how you said it.
Yeah, that's the statistic I've heard it said other ways. One of my favorite things I've heard recently is like 99% of all statistics are made up. So yeah, like it's either 50% of success is showing up or 80%. I would assume you're not going to achieve really any success if you're not showing up at all. So I guess the rest of it is kind of like
I got
better than
99
nothing.
statistics, but failure ain't one.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, just kidding. That was a bad dad joke.
Oh,
So
some Jay-Z up in there.
I know, right? But no. So here's the thing, and I even challenge that. So it's like you got 80% of achieving success is showing up. So we're before I like flip that, the other 20%. What does that consist of? So it's like 80% of achieving success is showing up, and then you got this 20% that's like kind of ambiguous, if you will. So let's dive into that. What is the 20%?
Um, I'm gonna say like right off the bat, one of those has got to be attitude, right?
Hmm. Okay.
Um, that was kind of something I had to reshape, recenter before I walked in and sat down to do this evening because I was like coming out of a confrontation, if you will, after having a very interesting kind of day. Um, and I quit smoking 2 weeks ago today, so I'm still dealing with, yeah, huge accomplishment. However, I was not, I guess, naively was not expecting all of the physical and mental withdrawal symptoms that I've been experiencing. Most of it has not been the stereotypical crankiness, irritability, anxiety type stuff. It's been other stuff for me, but
Mhm.
um all of that kind of compounded in there was a small confrontation literally moments before I walked in here. So
Mhm.
in order to still do this, like I could have very well been like texting you, like, I'm not doing this, I'm in a bad mood, blah, 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 you know what I mean? Not showing up today, you know.
Yeah.
But
And that was the
considering
topic too. That was the topic, like
exactly,
showing up.
exactly. So I was like, no, I was like, that's exactly it. Is I need to compose myself. Like what happened happened. It's done and over with, and I'm going to be here. But that really meant I had to shift my attitude and not let that just wreck
Mhm.
the rest of my evening. Right. And so, yeah, I would say attitude. Um,
And I'll agree with that. I truly believe that, I truly believe that attitude is important. Within one of my books, I write about that, where it's like, if you want to achieve success, you must adhere to the five rights, be at the right place at the right time, with the right information, the right resources, the right attitude, and the right action. And we're gonna flip this here in a little bit, but I truly believe that 80% of achieving success really boils down to action. But before we dive into that, it's that what's it part of that other 20%? If in fact that 80% of achieving success is just showing up, simply show it like I'm here. Why am I successful? Where's my success? I'm here, kind of a thing. And I kind of disagree with that a little bit. So I think that it's going to be an interesting topic with that. So I truly believe that, okay, if 20% is something else, attitude is one of those things. And I agree with that. I truly believe that attitude is one of those things. I truly believe planning has a lot to do with that as well, too. If you want to achieve success, you must plan for success. You must get down to that most important thing. I like to call it the bottom line up front. Everybody else has their different methods. Brendan Burchard's got the high performance planner. We all have different ways in which we plan for success. So what are your thoughts on that? Planning for success?
I think yes. And mindset and attitude is part of that plan because I really feel like you're not going to sit down and plan if you don't believe that
Mhm.
you're going to be able to achieve success. And so those things kind of go hand in hand. And there's another, was the other saying, like if you failing to
If you fail
plan.
to plan, then you plan to fail.
Thank you. Exactly. That's exactly. It was like blah, blah, like mush on my tongue. And I think that it's important to have to at least have a basic plan put together, have an idea of like where you're trying to get to, not necessarily spending all your time planning. I think we had a conversation about this recently too, is that there are people who are career planners. Like that's all they plan and plan and plan, but they never actually do the stuff that they're planning. It's like theoretical plan, not like we're actually going to do this kind of plan. So yeah, I think
I call those to-do lists. And I don't like them. I don't like to-do lists. I'm just going to be honest with you. So a to-do list is not a plan. It's a list of things to do, but how often do people actually take action on their to-do list? It's like, well, I got a bunch of things, and I used to be guilty of this too. I used to write down 3, 4, 5 pages. I used to have these things taped together, things marked off in this, that, and the other. And it's one of those things that I always found myself not achieving everything because I would get overwhelmed of like, what is the most important thing? It's like, well, I'm here. I showed up. I'm going to achieve all of these things on my to-do list. So I definitely don't want to poke no more fun at it, but I call it a to-do list.
Yeah. I mean, I used to smash out some pretty lengthy to-do lists, but I was also at home by myself, knocking things out one at a time with no distractions. And this was like over a decade ago, pretty much, when my older kids were in elementary and middle school, and I was at home for a couple of years, but I wasn't like I didn't have these lofty goals either. Like my goal was make sure the dining room was clean, make sure the kitchen was clean, do spring cleaning out in the yard, like these different kinds of things. And I was at that point, I knew how long it was going to take me to get each of these tasks done. I knew I could smash out an entire list in like an afternoon. Now, and I think especially when you are building towards something, it's difficult to know exactly how long some of these tasks are going to take you, to get done. And that's something I find myself kind of frequently. Every time I learn a new set of skills, I tend to put way too much in my calendar. And so I've had to learn to back up a little bit, slow down a little bit, and not basically overplan my days. But anyways, yes, planning is definitely part of that quote unquote 20%. We're just going to roll with that made up statistic for now. And it definitely takes some planning to achieve success for sure. Got to know where you're going.
Yeah. And, here's the thing. I used to have these big to-do lists. I truly did. And it really helped me keep on task and on track. I didn't, even though I didn't have an order, it was like, okay, here's these 50 things that I want to get done. And usually I used to never really do those to-do lists until I was like on vacation. It was like my vacation to-do list. Like, okay, I've got 2 weeks off. I'm going to get everything done because I don't have to go to work. I'm going to be at the house.
Right.
Now that's my opportunity to get all of these things done. And it's one of those things to where I would write down, and I wouldn't hold back. I would just write everything down. During these 2 weeks, I'm going to do these, 20 things or 50 things or 172 things or whatever it was. and I would do that. And for the most part, I would get them done. But I didn't really have an order. It was just, I would cherry pick. I would be like, okay, what am I going to start with? Okay, let me do this. This is cool. I'm going to do that first.
Yeah.
And then it would just kind of carry on. But I was there. I showed up, but not everything got done. So I think, planning and really kind of getting down to like, what are the important things and that you can take action on? Because here's the thing, you mentioned attitude. I think that if you had a list that was completely overwhelming, you might have a bad attitude towards it. Like, oh my God, look at all these things that I have to do. Oh my God, I don't want to do these things. And then next thing you know, you have a defeated attitude. And
Right.
it's like, well, gosh, at the end of that, you wrote down that list. What do you have a bad attitude for? You wrote it down. And I would struggle with that. I truly would. I would struggle with that to-do list. And I was the one that wrote it down. And it was one of those things that that I had to get away from that to-do list. I truly did. So I think planning has a lot to do with that. Attitude, once again, I'm trying to think if there's like anything else. It really kind of comes back to taking action.
Oh yeah, action is definitely like the major player in that, 20% we'll call it. Because if you're not, I mean, you have to be doing something to get, towards your goals. And that's something, that action is going to look very different depending on whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Like if you're trying to achieve better sleep, your action list is going to look way different than if you're trying to, run a marathon or, build a Fortune 500 company or, whatever. Though good sleep should be a part of all of those things.
I I like what you just said right there. Action list. Some people call it a to-do list. For me, I call it now I call it my bottom line up front, because that's my bottom line up front planner. But I love what you just said right there, action list. And I think that if you shift that a little bit, instead of calling it a to-do list, maybe call it an action list. Up here on the screen, I have Mary, and she shared a to-be list. What are your thoughts on that? A to-be list?
Um, that's actually, I've never heard of that before, I don't think. And I think that's a really great concept.
Mhm.
For me, the to-do list honestly was a coping mechanism for many, many, many years, because if I kept myself busy doing stuff around the house, I didn't have to think about the stuff that was actually bothering me and that I actually needed to deal with and that I actually needed to kind of like, process. I definitely use it as a distraction technique, just keeping myself busy with not super important things, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, I think that ties really well into what Mary just said, because had I been able to, at that point, look at it as a to-be list, I definitely wouldn't be, sweeping the kitchen floor 4 times a day. I would be sitting down and trying to figure out how do I deal with my trauma? So, um, totally different. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I really do love that. Luckily, that's not my mode of operation anymore.
Uh-huh.
But that's definitely a big part of what it was for me. Was as much as I could pile on that list, the better, because I wasn't thinking about stuff at that point.
Mhm. I love that, and oh my goodness, I remember, I remember whenever I was creating some of those lists, those long to-do lists, and I would staple some of them together and I would cross things off, and then I would like throw a list away and rewrite things down on a new list, and this, that, and the other. I kind of made a game out of it. And that's something else as well too. I was like, I think that if you really want to achieve success, you kind of got to gamify it. What are your thoughts on gamifying success?
So interesting that you threw yours away. I think, and here's why I'm saying this. I still have somewhere, and at some point I need to dig these out and just burn them as like a releasing kind of exercise. Because I used to buy those steno books, like those 9x7 or whatever they were, steno tablets, and that's what I would write my list in. And here I grew up watching someone close to me do the same thing, where they would fill these one after the other, and they would cross the things off and then would save them. And it didn't dawn on me till much later that that's kind of what I was doing. And for me, it was like, because I wasn't like, these were my books of accomplishments, which sounds ridiculous now that I'm saying it out loud, but that's really what that signified, right? Because that's what I was spending my days doing. And because somewhere in the back of my mind, I didn't feel like there was worthiness issues, and I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but I had worthiness issues, and I felt like I had to be productive all the time and always be moving and always doing all these things. That was like my sense of accomplishment was in every time I filled one and crossed off all those things on in that notebook, and then bought a new notebook and kind of started all over again. And so, yeah, I think I was in a way gamifying that and kind of rewarding myself and giving myself, like a proverbial gold star when I finished crossing everything off of my list, feeling like that was like, um, I was being productive and therefore I was, worthy of being, celebrating myself or whatever. I'm not even gonna pretend like I completely understand it. This was so long ago. But I think that air of competition does really get people moving, right? And it's fun competition. I'm not going to say like, any kind of cutthroat competition, but that's a good way. I've seen it be very
toxic.
Oh, yes. Yes. It definitely can get very toxic. I've seen it work for some people. I've really spent a lot of time moving away from comparing myself to other people. So being in competition with someone else is like, it's difficult for me to kind of go back to that place.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ways to make it fun that don't have to be toxic, cutthroat competition.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really long way to explain that. Sorry.
Yeah. And I used to do the same thing. So I thrive off of competition. I truly do, because it's one of those things to where it gets me pumped up. It gets me motivated. It gets me, I'm just ready to rock, kind of a thing, especially if there's competition. And at the end of the day, really, you're competing with yourself if you want to achieve success.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, there's ways in which you can do healthy competition and this, that, and the other. I think that the whole competition thing has really kind of shifted over the years, because there's a lot of people that they take offense to it. They get offended very easily, if you start doing things, especially the way that I used to do it. So I was like, oh, you think you're going to run? Oh yeah, well, I'm going to run too. And I would just like totally just like shove it in your face kind of a thing. Because I remember growing up when I was playing sports, I would really talk like at you. Like I would talk at you. If you were on my field or my court, you were in my path. And I didn't like that. And I would just do anything and say anything to destroy you.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. And I had to learn how not to do that. I truly did. I had to learn how to do what's called healthy competition,
Right.
or one of those things to where it's like healthy celebrating kind of a thing. Because if you're in competition, or if you're on the same team, or you're trying to work with someone, you really kind of got to figure out how you can have this healthy balance between competition, celebrating one another, taking the right actions, and figuring out how you can balance all that. Because at the end of that, you may find yourself on that person's team. You may find, there's this good balance there to where you can help one another kind of a thing. So I truly believe that there's a degree of that. Maybe that doesn't fall into the gamification thing, but once again, it might fall into the realm of healthy balance competition. I don't know. I don't know how to kind of attack that one.
No, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think competition with yourself is definitely important. Like, you're constantly wanting to improve, and you're kind of on this journey to be the best version of yourself. That is going to kind of look like competition and keeping track of certain things, and doing a little better than you did the day before. And I do feel like healthy competition is going to include that encouragement, that lifting each other up, that I'm going to one up you, but that's because I want you to one up me, and not because I'm trying to crush or smash or like grind you into dust. Like, there's, it really
smash. I'm going to smash you.
Yeah, exactly. It really comes down to, is your ego in check, and can you put your ego kind of back in check and know that excuse me, your camaraderie really is more important than your ego. Yeah.
I like that one. I like that, because I remember when I was in the military, for example, it was a sense of camaraderie. Esprit de corps is what we called it. esprit de corps, but it's really camaraderie. It's really that competition. But it got to a point to where, man, some people really kind of took offense to it because they didn't want to look silly in front of their friends, or they didn't want to look defeated. It was like, why am I running circles around you? Come on, up, down, left, right, 1, 2. And I used to get in people's faces all the damn time. It was just kind of one of those things to where it's like, why am I beating you backwards? Like, I'm freaking 40 years old and I'm running backwards, beating you. I mean, I would say things like that. I would mentally destroy you.
Well, yeah, I think that a lot of of the stories you've told me about the military have been like 95% built on ego. I mean, just being honest, like you guys really play on that psychic, that part of the psychology, the ego, where, you're using that as a tool to get people to push as hard as they possibly can, because they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to be left behind. There's like all of these different things that it's all ego based, and y'all put those egos on steroids. Like, from what I've heard, and I have not myself been in the military, but just listening to the stories that you've told over the past year or so at this point, it's definitely, the majority of it is ego based. It's just,
and I had to learn how to control that.
I can imagine coming out of that and back into like civilian life, and realizing that the place for like that works in the military, it gets the job done for what you guys are trying to do, but it's not quite as effective or helpful like on the highway or in the grocery store or whatnot. So I can only imagine what kind of adjustment that was.
If I threw some gangster stuff out there swerving from the left, I'd probably get looked at like, dude, who is you?
You come to where I grew up and did some stuff like that, we probably wouldn't be having this live stream right now. So we're just going to leave it at that.
I 100% get it. So once again, I think that, we touched on a few key things within the 20%, and I would like to eventually shift those over into the 80%, because I truly believe that everything that we've talked about, it's a little bit more than 20%. It takes up a little bit more than 20% of our time. So I truly believe that the number one thing that if you want to achieve success is taking appropriate action. And appropriate action really differs for everybody, but it really takes all of these other things to go into it. And I think that if you shift the things that we talked about over into the 80%, and you did planning and gamifying and thinking and strategy. We didn't even talk about strategy, which goes into intentional thinking.
Yeah.
So if you put all of that down into the whole 80%, when it comes down to that 20% of taking appropriate action, you've pretty much already done all of the work to the point to where that 20%, that final little piece that's going to take you to the finish line, that's that 20%. That's that action. I truly believe that if you focus that 80% on all of these other things that we mentioned, and trust me, we could have gone down probably 100 other rabbit holes of things that can go into this 80%, but I truly believe that the 80% is important, but it's not what you think.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest. We've been talking about this for the past 25 minutes ish. And, I'm going to look this up, because it's like the 80% of what? 80% of the effort, 80% of the action, 80% of the effort. Like, I already said effort. Like 80% of what for success is showing up. There's got to be another word in there now that I'm thinking about it. And I guess too, it's kind of what do they call that? Like the like 80% of the challenge. There's got to be another word in there. Now I'm thinking about it. And I know especially like some of my clients struggle with anxiety. A lot of them struggle with social anxiety, and showing up really is the difficult part, right? Like this is something that I've struggled with. Are you okay?
I'm good. It's just I noticed something over on the other screen here. I was like, No, I was listening to everything that you
Okay,
said.
I was like, I thought I lost something happened. No, no worries.
No,
All right,
something,
yeah.
something, no, something did happen, but it was cool. It was a feature that just got re-added back into the YouTube chat. I was like, ooh,
Oh, cool. I can only see like this much right now because we're showing up using a tablet today versus my laptop because the cord
you know,
fried again. So
so
anyway.
so you remember years ago the the YouTube chat used to be able to click on there and you could go tap on that and then go to channel. Well, they took it away for about 2 or 3 years. Well, the go to channel is back now.
Oh yeah, they took that away during COVID, I think.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Hmm.
that's pretty awesome. Go to channel is back because I remember I used to have to type in their name, go here, and this was back in the day when I used to attend a lot of live streams and network the crap out of those live streams. And anyway, I big kid in a little candy store.
Yes, but you showed up and you did the thing. Um, yeah, I'm gonna actually I kind of want to look that up to see what the full quote is because I feel like we're missing a word, and that would really help with um kind of where we're taking the conversation.
Mhm.
Um, because hold on, we're just playing it by ear tonight, y'all.
Okay. So while she's looking that up right there. So once again, I challenge the whole thing. It's like, but so when here's
Yeah.
how these live streams go. Me and Bonnie text each other about 5 minutes before we go live. It's like, what are we talking about tonight? I don't know. What do you want to talk about? So tonight, the topic was 80% of achieving success is simply just showing up. And I disagreed with that. So it was just kind of one of those things to where I truly believe that there was a lot more into achieving success than merely just showing up. Because if I just showed up every single day, I was like, I'm here. Where's my million followers? Where's all this and all that? And how come I don't have this? And how come I don't have that? I showed up.
Right.
It's not there. So it's just kind of one of those things to where interesting topic, but I truly believe that showing up is a part of it. It's definitely a part of achieving success because if you don't show up and you just sit on the couch and surf TV all day long or channel surf or look at Netflix and watch YouTube videos and sit there and watch the news and the traffic report and this, that, and the other. I mean, at the end of that, you showed up, you're there. That's exactly what you're participating in. And I hear people talk about this all the time, and I'm going to kind of twist this back into something here. People talk about it all the time to where it's like, I can do that. Well, if you can do it, I should have done that. Well, why didn't you? If so and so can do that, I can do that. Well, go ahead. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why am I? Then they start questioning, why am I not achieving success? Why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing that? It was like, well, the actions that you chose, you showed up in the wrong way, but which version of yourself showed up? And
Yeah.
I believe that is important as well too, is showing up. I truly believe is valuable, but which version of you showed up?
That's what ties into attitude. And so, real quick, it was Woody Allen who once said that 80% of success in life is just showing up. So, there are no other words. That's it.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go into my thoughts about who and why and all that other stuff because it's kind of irrelevant. But where I kind of started with this earlier today was the fact that I was having one of those days where I could have very well texted and been like, I'm not doing this today. Like I can't do this today. And um at 1 o'clock, 1:30 this afternoon, that's exactly how I was feeling. I was feeling miserable, like really just super sick. And my body's like all kinds of confused right now. Like, 25 years of nicotine and other chemicals. And I'm not like throwing a pity party here. Like that was obviously all my doing, but I did not realize the undoing, like what that was going to feel like.
Mhm.
And so the last like week and a half has really kind of been this roller coaster of physical and emotional symptoms. And what I've realized is in most cases, Like I've shown up to one-to-one meetings with people I've never met before, and it was brain fog where I'm not able to think straight. And what I realized just in, the last week and a half is that, or I guess last week, because I did take several days kind of off and wasn't really talking to anybody. People were really appreciative of the fact that I showed up. Thanks, Mary. That I showed up. And even though I wasn't 100% my quote unquote, like, intelligent self, like I was tripping over my words and losing my train of thought, the fact that I showed up when I was 100% honest and transparent about what I was dealing with, people were super appreciative of that. We still had a nice conversation. And these people asked to schedule more time with me at a later date as well. So for me, the success really was showing up, because had I been like, messaged all these people and tried to explain in a text, like, I'm not feeling up to doing this today, there's no guarantee that those people would have, understood and or given me the opportunity to, reschedule and have time with them. So those meetings were all a success, in my opinion, because I showed up. Even though I wasn't the best version of myself, I was definitely the most authentic, transparent, and I had a good attitude. It was like, look, I can't guarantee this is going to be the best meeting you've ever had, but I'm here and I'm willing to give this a shot. And this is kind of what's going on. And I was able to somewhat laugh at myself too. Like, look, this is what I'm dealing with. Like, my brain is really fuzzy right now. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your patience. So yeah, anyways, it's, I think what you said, the version that you're showing up as has a lot to do with your attitude, because I very well could have been like, F this, F you, blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing this. No way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it could have went super south super quickly and just canceled everything. You know what I mean? And
fine then.
Yeah, exactly. Take my ball and stay home. No.
Good for you.
That's what I'm saying, though, so yeah.
And Mary hit on a really key point right here as well too. Sometimes it's just little things that make a difference, and I truly believe that. Thank you very much, Mary, for being here and adding value to the chat. And and I agree with that. Sometimes it is just a little thing. Showing up, I truly believe, is powerful, because there's a lot of people that make the decision to not show up. And, because they have limiting beliefs, or they don't think it's possible for them, or they don't have, all of everything together. Like, I don't have the right time or resources or information or whatever. And it really kind of comes down to that belief. It's that lack of belief within yourself. And when you show up, once again, it ties back into what version of you is showing up. Because I can tell you, a bad version of me has showed up to a lot of things. A bad attitude of me has showed up to a lot of things, and a super excited, over the top version of me has showed up to a lot of things. And I truly believe that, if you want to achieve success, really, for me, it comes down to 5 things: be at the right place at the right time, with the right information, the right resources, right attitude, and right action. If you adhere to the 5 rights, you will never be wrong. And I'm writing about that within one of my books. And I truly believe that you can really tie anything and everything into one of those 5 categories. As you mentioned, attitude is definitely in there. Action is definitely in there. Right information and right resources. So I truly believe that information and resources has a lot to do with what version of yourself does show up. Because if you don't have the right information, you might have a version of yourself that shows up that's like, do I really want to be here? I don't have the right information. So I'm going to kind of tiptoe in here to see if, what this is all about, until I get more information. And when I have the information together, then a different version of me might step up, kind of a thing. So what are your thoughts on that right there?
Yeah, I mean, I like what you were saying about, the kind of the belief in yourself and the showing, the showing up. I've done a lot of things the past couple of years that, older previous versions of me would have never done. And I did a lot of feeling the fear and doing the thing anyway over the past couple of years. And that's really allowed me to show up to these things not feeling my 100%, right? Like I'm showing up to meet these people at these coffee chats, and it could go either way. But in my mind, I did my best. Like I showed up, I'm doing my best. And if people aren't, open-minded or whatnot, that says more about them than it does about me. But as for the information part of it, I've been practicing, like I've been doing this thing where I am asking as many questions, open-ended questions as I possibly can, and trying to see how far I can get into the conversation before the person asks me what it is that I do. And it's like this game, so almost like that gamifying thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm being more interested than interesting. David talks about that. And it's just really fun almost because I also don't have to, like, especially this past week when my brain was kind of fuzzy, I didn't have to sound super eloquent because all I was doing was asking the other person questions. And then when they finally did come back and ask me what it was, I obviously told them what it is that I do. But these people were so, what's the right word? Just like satisfied, happy. I don't know what the right is because I'm having some brain fog because we're talking about this so much. But like they felt good about the fact that I was actually genuinely interested in who they are and what it is that they do. That it almost kind of like disarmed them to the point where when I was like, okay, my brain just went blank. It wasn't really that big of a deal. Like it landed differently with them because they were already kind of disarmed and comfortable. So anyways, that was my experience with the information piece of that this week. I didn't go into any of these meetings with like some preconceived notion really of who these people were. In fact, I purposely did not go back into my notes and look at them because I wanted to be able to ask them organically as many questions as possible. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And when you focus attention on, on serving and being a part of them, sometimes it can catch them off guard. Because I think that a lot of people are so used to either being sold or marketed to or, told what they, how can I say this, told what they, I don't know, I want to say want to hear versus what they need to hear, or maybe vice versa. I'm not quite sure. I'm at a crossroads with that one. Because sometimes you tell people what they want to hear, but you also tell them what they need to hear. And I truly believe that there's a version of that where, you must hear those certain things. So it's like that I can, I will, I must kind of a riff on that take. And man, when you're truly serving from the heart, I think it might catch some people off guard, but at the end of that, it really says more about them than it does about you.
Yeah, that has definitely been my experience this past month or so. Going in as networking events and also reaching out to people to coffee chats is interesting. It's been almost like this fun little experiment in a way where the wording I'm using is, I would like to see how I could be of service to you and what you're working on. That's like part of it. And I'm noticing I'm getting a lot of, not a lot, but I'm getting some messages, replies back saying, no, I'm not interested. And it's like, not interested in help, not interested in, like, I'm not trying to sell you something. Like, I don't have a product to sell you. Like, I'm genuinely just trying to have, want to have a conversation, learn more about, what it is that you do. And part of me thought about changing the wording because people were getting caught off guard. And I was like, you know what? This is almost an easy way for me to weed out people who are not open-minded. And who may not do this kind of thing. Because if they were doing this thing themselves with other people, they would understand the language that I'm using. Like it would make sense to them. Like, oh, hey, yeah, definitely. I would love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to see how I could help you too. Not that I'm looking for that. What I'm looking for is people who are even open-minded enough to have a conversation with a stranger, and that literally has zero expectation of getting anything in return except for a cool conversation. So,
and that brings up something interesting as well too. It brings up the concept of being more valuable than the person that you're talking to. And I was trying to find a better way to say that than sounding kind of egotistical. Because it is kind of an ego based statement. It's like when you know that you are more valuable than the other person, how do you approach that kind of a thing? Like I'll share an example. I was in a conversation with someone and I wanted to serve them. I wanted to give them a platform in which to share and promote and do all these different things. And I knew that I was significantly much more valuable. In other words, I know that I've got a club with this many thousand people. I've got Instagram with this. I've got, it was one of those things to where I knew that I would have, that I brought something bigger to the table.
Like
And
your
it was,
social capital, basically.
exactly. And it was one of those things to where the other person, I don't know. It was kind of like they were trying to market me, sell me, this, that, and the other. I'm like, dude, like I'm more valuable than you. So I caught myself in this weird zone, this little weird gray area here, to where it was like I was trying to serve, but the person was really just kind of being more defensive or more marketable. I'm trying to fight for words on this one because it was a really weird situation. And ultimately I didn't help the person. Ultimately, we did everything. We recorded something. I did a Zoom call. It was an interview, and it just got to the point to where I ultimately just trashed it. I just canned the whole thing because the person just really didn't see the value of what I was trying to do for them. And it was just because they were trying to market and promote and sell and this, that, and the other. And I was looking at this person's stuff and I was like, dude, you have nothing. Like, what do you like? You need to be more open. You need to be more this. And as I was struggling to ask questions because every time I would ask a question, it got hit with a brick wall of like either resistance or it's in the course or I don't want to share anything. Or I was like, dude,
Okay, yeah, you had somebody who was
I'm
being very scarce about their knowledge and their information, as if, oh, I went through this, I know what you're talking about, not who but
like,
what, because
I'm glad you got it because I was trying to explain what
yeah,
was going on. Yeah.
when yeah, you were trying to basically help promote him for free, basically, and he was being very scarce with the
Exactly.
information that he felt. uh Here's the thing with information. It's freaking everywhere and anyone can access it at this point with the internet. You just have to know who and what you're looking for and be willing to put in the time to do the research. Okay? Nothing at this point is so, I mean, besides the technology front, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Mhm.
There's nothing that hasn't been done or said before at this point, really. There's just iterations of it.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got, so you can even see my machine, learning how to cut vinyl. Okay. And before I was even doing shirts, just cutting adhesive vinyl like you use for like decals for things like your window decals, little stick figures and stuff. And I went into a few different Facebook groups. Now these are massive Facebook groups, like with between 15 and like 100,000 members. And you
Mhm.
would not believe, this was my first real interaction with scarcity and understanding how scarcity kind of was rampant in a lot of these different places. Um, they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to tell. Why would I tell you who my supplier is? And why would I tell you where I got my t-shirts? And why would I tell you? I'm like, there's 100,000 people in this group. Do you really think you're the only person that's shopping at this place? Like, you know, and finally, I did end up meeting a couple of open-minded people. It's like, I'm not trying to steal your business. I'm trying to learn how to use my machine. You're halfway across the country. But that scarcity was
Yeah.
there where they were like so protective of this information that they
Mhm.
had, like as if they were the only person that knew about these things.
Mhm.
And all that, for me, all that I did was obviously I separated myself from those people. But I started looking for people who I could exchange information and resources
Mhm.
with. Like, oh, hey, look, I found out about this. Did you know about that? And I still ran into some people who are like, who do you think you are? You're new. I've been here for 5 years. Of course I knew about that. Like those kinds of people. And it's like, I
Mhm.
was just trying to be helpful, but you're welcome. you
Yeah.
know,
No,
but
we're all at
yeah,
different levels. We're all at different levels, and and
yeah,
how you handle those situations really, once again, it says more about you than it does about the other person.
Exactly.
And I've seen that. I've been a part of groups to where you walk in and, and I kind of observe a little bit to see what the atmosphere or what the culture is like, so to speak. I call it
Yeah.
culture. It's like, what's the culture of this group?
Yeah.
And, an atmosphere would be another way of saying that as well, too, because you don't want to come in and like understep or overstep your boundaries or be afraid to ask anything. But it's one of those things to where, and I've even caught myself doing this as well, too, but it took me a long time to understand there's different levels. And if you really want to help someone, if you're at a certain level of success, understand that you can be of value to somebody who may be at a different level, not necessarily down here, like you're beneath me kind of a thing. I don't really think of that. It's like, hey, I have information, I have knowledge, I have skills, I have experience. I can help you with this. Here you go. Maybe this can be of value to you because look, at the end of the day, if I'm an author and you're a clothing designer, we're in two different niches, but we're not in competition with each other. But it's one of those things to where how I did something within something that I do could be of value to you within what you're doing within your world. So it's one of those things of where exactly what you said, there is information everywhere. How you use that information really will be the difference between your success and your failure.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the implementation, the execution, all of that is what ends up really being key. And what's interesting is not I don't have a massive business, but I have a lot of people who know me for what it is that I do, and they enjoy the quality of work and blah 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 blah. There's a large chunk of these predominantly women that were in this group that are no longer even doing this type of thing. Some of them have been shut down. A lot of them got caught up in copyright issues, trademark infringement, blah 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 blah. Because not only did they have this "I'm above you," mindset towards me and other beginners, but they had this also above the law mindset, and I can do whatever I want because I know X, Y, and Z. And it's like, that's not really how this works.
Mhm. Would you categorize that as attitude?
uh yeah, that would fall into, I really feel like that's just egotistical all around, all around.
Got it.
um yeah, like just, you know I can do whatever I want. Or there was also some of these people also, and this isn't, I guess, egotistical too. Is like, um, well, I'm not doing this for money, so I have enough money to do X, Y, Z, so I can basically do whatever I want because I don't need to make money. Like, it was just a very interesting culture, as you called it, with not obviously not everybody. I'm glad I met those people up front and was able to kind of figure out who I didn't want to be around, so I could then move on and meet much, nicer, open-minded, not breaking the law types of people. So
Yeah, I love it. And so one final concept here that I want to kind of touch on before we wind this conversation down. And it's something that kind of Mary touched on here. And she was like, wow, who does that in 2022? And my response back to her was people who are failing or appearing to look successful. Look, here's the thing. If you honestly think that you can just go out and you can look successful, so to speak, and I get that, you want to play the role. I want to look successful, but that looks different for different people. And it's one of those things that you can either be successful, look successful, or you're trying to be whatever, one of the other. And it's one of those things that you just can't do both. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Looking successful, being successful, trying to look both. Do you think there's
I
a
mean, if you look at people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Gary Vaynerchuk
Mhm,
chilling in, jeans and hoodies and like
mhm,
making millions and billions of dollars in some cases, like, what does successful really look like?
mhm.
It's funny because I'm like, oh, I went out and I got new clothes for this new business endeavor that I'm doing, and to have the look. And I'm much more comfortable in like this and leggings or a tank top and, you know, whatever, very casual stuff. Exactly. Here you go. We got shorts on too. Yeah. You know, I'm like wearing.
It'd have been funny if I would have stepped back and I had a kilt on.
Yeah. I show up to, you know, some of the client meetings with.
And I got flip flops on too.
There you go. I just have socks on because I just do. But dressed up because I'm still doing everything via Zoom, so I'm dressed up from like basically from the waist up, and I'll wear leggings, you know, and that works. But here's something interesting. So I just signed a couple of new coaching clients this week after not for a long time because I was focusing on my, you know, my financial business. And I found myself getting dressed to meet this client really for the first time since our intro. And I was like, putting on a blazer and a, you know, dress shirt for this particular client would make them very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like that's too much. That's I'm working with people on their anxiety and stress, and showing up as this super sharp
showing up as a suit.
Yeah, would probably throw this person off, right? And so success is going to look different for and on everybody, and in different situations, different ways. Like there's this, I mean, that could be like a whole nother live stream, to be honest with you. But I don't think you need to wear the $100,000 watch or take your $1 bill and stick it in the $10,000 wallet. I'd much rather have the $9,999 to stick in my $1 wallet. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. But that's just me.
I get that. I struggled with it because remember, I was in the military for 24 years. I wore a uniform every single day. Right. I was either wearing my PTs, my physical training, stuff, or I was wearing my uniform, or I was, wearing a version of it, or whatever the case may be. When I retired, I'm not even going to sugarcoat this. I had to learn how to dress different and look different, and this, that, and the other, because I was so used to just putting my uniform on, and I didn't think of anything about it. So when I got ready to retire, I bought like a certain set of stuff to where I didn't have to think about it. None of my shirts really have labels or brands or anything. It's all just clear. Like all of my, I got the Unbreakable shirts. I got my Changemaker shirt. Those are probably the only shirts that I have that really has anything on it. Everything else that I have, I'm usually walking around the house in flip-flop shorts and, and a shirt that has nothing on it, unless I'm doing some type of live stuff or whatever the case may be. But man, looking successful, being successful, it's one of those things that you're right. You hit on a key point there. And I think it comes down to being comfortable. As long as you're comfortable in what it is, and who you are and what you stand for, what you've done, what you haven't done. I think there comes a point to where a lot of people think that they have to prove something. And I don't have to prove anything.
Yeah, I definitely went through a phase of that when I got into, so I was in corporate, in finance for a long time. I spent, like you, not in a uniform per se like that, but basically in a business casual suited style uniform 5 days a week. From the time I was like 25-ish, up until my early 30s when I got sick. And I remember finally quote unquote, coming to terms with, at some point, I think when I was having Sebastian, I took bins and boxes, like an entire decade's worth of business clothes, to this place that hands them out for people, like women in the women's shelter, to get a job. And because I was like, oh, I'm never going to be back in corporate. I'm never going to need these clothes again. And it was also almost like this weird bittersweet moment where it was like, that's not who I am anymore. That's not my identity anymore. And so when I found myself kind of coming back into like the finance world, it's like, oh, we got to do this thing again. We got to put this it's almost like a costume, right? Like I got to play this part. I got to put this costume on. This is who I have to show up as for this particular part that I'm playing. But you're absolutely right. Like there comes a point where I am most comfortable around those people that I can hang out in my regular clothes with. And I've really enjoyed getting to know the people at this company that I met kind of in their dress up clothes, right? Getting to know them better to the point where we're hanging out and trainings together in our regular clothes. And everybody's kind of like, when you show up to a client meeting, you showed up dressed to the nines, right? Like you have, that's like a respect thing almost. But when we're doing our other stuff, we can just kind of chill and be in our chill clothes. And so it's got me really thinking a lot about just how how the psychology of it, right? Because I'm sure you would feel a lot different if you went, in the back room and put on your military uniform and showed up on camera with your microphone than you do right now. As would I if I went in the other room and put on a business suit.
Heck yeah, I got a power tie.
Well, I'm honest. Like it really does do something. This could be another great conversation. It does something psychologically to us where we do kind of show up differently when we're dressed a certain way. And so, you're so welcome, Peter. Yay. So glad we were able to get that figured out.
Yeah, he sent a picture. He sent a thank you picture and everything. I'm not sure if you received the thank you picture or not.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Again, my brain has been sort of mushy the past week and a half, so forgive me. Thank you for your patience. I've been saying that a lot the past week and a half. So I'm glad I did see it. And I'm super happy that he's happy. That's the most important part.
Awesome. Well, I know I'm super excited to have him share his story and everything. And speaking of sharing, we have this printable here that we would like for everybody to print out. And if you really want to share your support, it's one great way. Of course, we would love for you to buy a t-shirt and share your story. But if you want a super easy, free way to share, here we have this printable right here, the I Am Unbreakable printable that Bonnie created right here. And we have a hashtag that says My Unbreakable Stories. So if you take a picture of yourself with this image right here that says I am unbreakable and share it across social media using the hashtag My Unbreakable Story, man, it would mean a lot to us. And it's one great way that you can share your support to let the world know that you are unbreakable. We've had a lot of amazing friends share their photos, their pictures of that printout right there. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see it right there. It says, share your support for Unbreakable Stories with the I Am Unbreakable printout. And it's at unbreakablestories.com/share. And man, it would mean a lot to us. We have all the details right there on that page on exactly what to do. Super easy, super simple. And it would really mean a lot to us. And if you have an Unbreakable t-shirt, go ahead, create a little video of yourself. It's just a super simple, easy video that, turn the camera on and says, hi, my name is Peter and I am unbreakable. Boom, that's it. And then send it off to us. And that way we can share that across social media. I've done that as well too. I've created the I Am Unbreakable. Bonnie's created hers, super easy. Hey, my name is Terry Thompson and I am unbreakable. That's all we want you to do. A little 2-second video. If you have the t-shirt, it would mean a lot to us. All right, Bonnie, great conversation tonight. We're going to go ahead and wind this thing down. We've been at it for almost an hour. What are your final thoughts?
I'm really grateful my brain held up mostly because I wasn't sure if it was going to. Working my way out of the weeds here. And yeah, that just lends to, like I said, 80% of success is showing up. We showed up. This live stream has been a success. We've taken it all over. I'm going to actually watch this one back. I don't usually watch them all back just because it's I said what I said and now it's out there on the internet. But I'm always kind of interested because I'm it was it almost looked like the journey to success is not a straight line. It's our conversation today was kind of like this, up and down and backwards and kind of all over the place. So
it was a roller coaster of a ride. You had to hold on or hold your hair back in order to ride.
Yeah. Like,
I love it, man. No, absolutely great conversation. You're right. We did go over all over the place, and we even generated a couple of possible future discussions. So it's one of those things that, look, here's the deal. Success looks different for different people. It's definitely not a cookie cutter thing to where if you think that you are truly going to do whatever. Now, there's a lot of great examples out there. Don't be wrong. There's a lot of great examples that are out there. Success does leave clues. Things that we're doing in our minds, we are successful. We are successful at the things that we are doing. But people has this, big misconception of if you're not, you don't have 11 million followers, and you're making 200 trillion dollars and and all this and all that, that you're not successful. And that's garbage. The thing is that success looks different for everybody. Bonnie and I, we partnered up quite a while ago. We've been at this for almost a year now, I want to say.
yeah,
And success looks different for us because we've been on this journey of where we're building one thing at a time. We're taking small steps. We're taking action. We're doing it long enough to where it will get results instead of giving up. So we're getting those results. And then we have these conversations. What's next? We've done this for 2 or 3 months. Let's start focusing on that next thing. What's that next thing that we're going to do? So we created this, we created that, we created this. We've been here, we've been there, we've done that. And it's one of those things that success is a journey, and it can be quite messy. It can be a messy journey. You can take you places that you never thought possible. And now here we are. We've got some products in place. We're working on some services, but we've been building these things one by one, bit by bit. It started off with a simple idea of a t-shirt. That's it. A simple idea is a t-shirt that says unbreakable, because we wanted to build a message around the word unbreakable. And then we took that and then we created Clubhouse. That really took us in a lot of different directions. And then we come back and now, okay, what else can we create? Okay, let's start talking about a book. Let's start talking about the printout that we got right here. We did the printout. It's like we need to get more engagement, more people involved. Okay, what's next? The habit tracker. Now we have the Unbreakable Habits Challenge that's going on. And man, that's taken off. We've already got 18 people, I think, signed up for the Habits Challenge now. So we've got 18 people that have signed up to be like, you know what? I want to change my life. I want to become unbreakable. So we've clearly identified 8 habits that you can take action on each and every single day. And they're super easy. They're super simple. All you have to do is show up, like we said within the conversation here today. Show up, have the right attitude, take action, and understand that little by little, step by step, habit by habit, task by task, to-do thing by to-do thing, as we all discussed here throughout this entire video, you will achieve your version of success. And I truly believe that so many people are wrapped around other people's version of success that they're unable to consider the fact that, you know what? You can be successful too, but your version might look different than the next person. And it's one of those things that, man, me and Bonnie, we've had a lot of great conversations on what success looks like to us. And it has evolved. It has changed. It's, we've modified, tweaked, and changed a few things over the course of a year. And it's one of those things to where we're not done yet. We're still taking action. We're still showing up. We've had some tough conversations on how we're going to move forward with some things. And sometimes you just need to let it kind of cook a little bit more. You need to let that, that secret sauce kind of soak in just a little bit more. Sometimes you need to understand that, man, I might not have it all together, but you know what? Together you can have it all. And that's the power of the collaboration, the teamwork, the partnership, the bond, the conversation, whatever label you want to put on it. Bonnie and I, we've created something that's truly unbreakable here. And I just want to say thank you once again publicly, Bonnie, for everything, because prior to meeting you, I did not have a one word. I did not have something that I could be proud of. I could be bigger than, and you've given me that. And for me, I've achieved success in a lot of different levels. Okay. In the military, as a civilian, I've achieved different levels of success, but I'm here to tell you right here, right now, I am more proud of the level of success that we've achieved here with Unbreakable than anything that I've ever accomplished. And I'm grateful for that.
that was beautiful. Well, you're welcome, and thank you, because this is definitely a collaborative effort all the way around. Oh, this wouldn't be happening right now, because it's just the technical stuff that you take care of. It is just tremendous, and is really the basis for a lot of the success that we've had, because it's not stuff that well, I'm not interested in, and I don't particularly like very much. So we're just gonna be honest about it. Like, it's not my forte. But it really, when I set out with Unbreakable, and I'm not going to go on the whole backstory right now, but when it was just like a teeny weeny baby idea, the whole point was to bring people together. And so to be able to do that with you, and have massive success at bringing people together. We've brought a lot of people together, a lot of people. And we're getting really good at that part, right? And that's just so rewarding. It's not about being followed. It's about building that community, because all of these people now have the opportunity to meet and help each other. And that was the whole point of Unbreakable from the get-go, was to get people together helping one another in one way, shape or form. And so I'm super grateful for you and for everybody who's participated, people who show up. And I figured out what the other word is, at least for me. That's 80% of showing up consistently.
I love that.
Is what makes you successful. It's got to be the consistency, because you could show up once and that's not going to make it. You have to show up.
100%. Consistency is a key element to that. And, and it's one of those things to where I even to this day, I still struggle with the consistency part of it. I really do. And, there's those good days and bad days, but you are truly on point. We are changing lives with the things that we're doing. We've brought more people. I like to think of it as connecting. We're connecting people together to where, they probably would have never met one another had it not been for certain things that we've done and we've worked on, especially on Clubhouse. We've been able to connect some people. I'll even share something here. This Sunday, there's an event that's happening with people that we've connected with on Clubhouse. Shawana and Kever are doing an event on Clubhouse this Sunday. And so Kever's a couple of times here, and man, just to be able to connect people together and see how they can be successful. Once again, I celebrate that. I celebrate each and every one of you here with us here, because you were a part of that journey. You were a part of that success. You were a part of the things that we're working on. And it's what truly makes us unbreakable, makes you unbreakable, and it makes everybody watching this unbreakable. My name is Terry Thompson, along with my co-host here, Bonnie. I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back on next Friday, hopefully, if everything goes well, next Friday at 7 p.m. But we're on Clubhouse every single night. Every single night we are live on Clubhouse, and we have our Wednesday chats as well, too, in the morning at 9 a.m. on Clubhouse. So once again, if you're not connected with this, get connected with us. Follow us across all of our social media platforms. Follow us here on YouTube. Follow us on Clubhouse. I'm telling you, we're changing lives one conversation at a time. And for me, that's what success is. Bonnie, thank you very much. Great conversation. We're going to have the after party here. We have a couple of people hanging out backstage. So as soon as I end this, we are going to have a quick chat backstage. But I do have some things going on, so we have to cut it real short. Bonnie, thank you very much tonight. Great conversation.
Thank you. Absolutely.